We've been tracking the position fixes that they've been giving us, and in general it seems that the hurricane is slowing down just a bit. Latest calculations over the last 4 hours about 11 or 12 miles per hour, which sort of prolongs the agony of when is this thing going to come in, or what's going to happen.
Does that also mean that folks along the coast may see tropical storm force winds lasting a longer period of time?
That's right. If it moves slower, the winds can last longer. Absolutely.
If you would, let's take a look at the radar. We also have
Sure.
a Doppler radar here.
Yeah, you can see the circulation center is roughly in here. Whoops, we've got a little bit of different radar there, but you can see some of the rain bands coming in, and of course Bill Keneally's down to the south. This band's starting to come in close to him, and so the first strong winds are going to be coming to him first. This band in here is associated more with hurricane force winds in here, and we'll see that come on shore later today. But keep in mind, as we go up the coast with the surge here, the surge can be pretty substantial.
Good morning, everyone. Thanks for joining us here at the Weather Channel. I'm Marshall Cease. We're tracking Hurricane Bonnie nearing the coast of North Carolina this morning. Moving north-northwest still at about 14 miles per hour, and it looks as though it will make landfall sometime this afternoon. Tropical storm force winds being felt along the coast at this hour. Let's look first at your hurricane warnings. They are in effect from Chincoteague, Virginia to Edisto Beach, South Carolina. Expanded southward yesterday by the National Hurricane Center, partly due to the fact that this is such a huge storm. Now, the strike probability indicates high for southeastern North Carolina and extreme northeastern South Carolina. As a matter of fact, some of the wind gusts in northeast South Carolina have been as high as 40 miles per hour so far this morning. These are the 5 a.m. coordinates. I'm going to correct those for you, for those of you that track these storms. It is now centered at latitude 32.7 north, longitude 77.8 west. That puts it about 110 miles south of Wilmington, North Carolina. North-northwest, 14 miles per hour is its current track. It is expected to turn a little more northward later today. The tropical storm force winds extend out 230 miles, and the hurricane force winds now extend out 115 miles. Barometric pressure still the same, 965 millibars. You can see the eye very discernible now off the coast, again 110 miles to the south of Wilmington. And just to the north of the center at Frying Pan Shoals, a buoy about 50 miles off the coast of North Carolina and about 50 miles from the center of the storm, hurricane force winds are sustained with some gusts to 80 and 85 miles per hour. Now, all along the coast of the Carolinas, we're concerned about the winds. We want to show you that impact first. Currently, 40-mile-per-hour winds are being experienced along the northeastern South Carolina coast and the southeastern North Carolina coast. We expect the 75-mile-per-hour winds to be just a couple of hours away. Stationed all along the coast of North Carolina from the north, Nags Head Beach, is Jeff Morrow. Weather Channel's Jim Cantori is awaiting the hurricane at Morehead City, and at Wrightsville Beach, Bill Keneally has been reporting all morning long. We take you first to Bill Keneally for the report from Wrightsville Beach. Good morning, Bill.
Good morning to you, Marshall. Not a very good morning here. As you can see, the weather has gone vastly downhill in a big hurry. It was only about 4 hours ago I actually saw stars overhead. But as you can see, we're getting rather gusty. The trees are swaying as we look southbound, and rightfully so. We're estimating now winds of 50 to 60 miles per hour at times here, swirling nature to the wind. So far, though, even though we've had a few power hits, we have sustained power here in the immediate mainland side of Wrightsville Beach. Now, they did cut the power during the night on the barrier island in Wrightsville Beach itself. Again, to emphasize, the big concern will be the high tide along with the wind. Do not get outside if you can possibly help it. There will be some projectiles in the air before the day is out. The next high tide, to emphasize, is 10:30 this morning, and there's some tidal water about a half a mile from us, but you'll be happy to know we're about 20 feet or so above mean sea level. Now let's take a jaunt across Onslow Bay and see how things are faring over in Morehead City, and for that report, let's go to Jim Cantori. Good morning, Jim.
Good morning, Bill. We're not doing so bad up here yet, but of course everything's moving north, so eventually we'll get into some of those 50 and 60 mile an hour winds that you are mentioning. And I guess it's kind of good news for some folks that were last minute and maybe wanted to think twice about heading off the barrier island, because we really haven't seen those winds yet. And I'll tell you folks, you only got a couple of hours left before the wind that Bill's talking about is going to make its way up here to Morehead City. But the shelters are open, schools are closed for the day, and according to police around here, things are going smoothly so far. But we are awaiting the bashing from Bonnie, and we do think that's going to ride this afternoon on into tonight. So that is absolutely a reason to not let your guard down at all. I'm telling you, when those hurricane winds come in, there's not going to be much we can do except just kind of hanker down and wait for this thing to move on through. Well, again, I'm at the southern end of the Outer Banks. Let's go north now toward Nags Head, North Carolina, and that's where Jeff Morrow's standing, and he'll give us a live report. Jeff?
All right, Jim. Well, things much calmer this far north, but we're on a rather deserted Outer Banks. What I'm going to do is let our photographer shoot down the beach here. We're looking southbound along the coast, show you some of the surf and zoom in on the pier. There's a lot of salt spray in the air and a lot of sand and haze as well. And the clouds down on the horizon, a little bit on the dark side. That is where the hurricane is, well off to the south, well south of Hatteras. But we do expect it, of course, to move up this way as we head on through the course of the day and on into this evening. The winds we expect to be picking up here as well. But not a bad morning at all. There are some folks that have been taking some strolls out on the beach, a few of those that have stayed behind, and that's about it. We'll keep you updated here from Nags Head, North Carolina on the Outer Banks as Hurricane Bonnie continues to push up the North Carolina coast. Now let's go back to Marshall.
Thank you, Jeff. That was Jeff Morrow reporting from Nags Head Beach there at the north end of North Carolina along the coast. Now, I also want to mention the fact that some of these wind gusts are not just going to be at the coast. They will also be inland, and folks need to be concerned about that inland, so not just along the coast. We already have reports of 48-mile-per-hour wind gusts, and that was at Wilmington just in the last 15 minutes.
That's right.
I'm here with Tropical Coordinator and Hurricane Expert Dr. Steve Lyons. Doctor, you've looked at the analysis of the National Hurricane Center at 8 o'clock. What do you think? Any major change?
Not really. I think they're sort of sticking to their guns. They're still expecting a more northerly turn within the next few hours. And so anywhere from the extreme western portion of North Carolina all the way out to the Cape Hatteras area is under the gun.
Now, you talked with some emergency management folks in Norfolk, Virginia, and they're concerned.
That's right. Jim Talbot, I was talking to, some people may have evacuated from North Carolina to there. If you have done that, you want to make sure you're in high ground, because as that system moves to the north, you're going to get some storm surge up there as well, and some deteriorating weather as well, and some very strong winds. So some damage could occur there as well.
Take a look at this radar picture that we have here, and tell us what you make from it.
Well, you can see the circulation center down here. It's moving to the north-northwest at about 12 miles an hour. And the reason that we're seeing the stronger winds in Wilmington area is because look at the distance of the storm as compared to over here. It's much, much closer to Wilmington than it is to Cape Hatteras. But what we're thinking here in the track is expected to do this. And the question is whether or not it goes over Norfolk, south, or north of it, because that will make a big difference on what the storm surge will be in that general area.
Let's keep that up just for a minute, because an impact could be felt if it takes that track as far west as Raleigh-Durham. It could affect some folks as far north as Richmond, Virginia, could it not?
That's right. And it looks like the rain will be a significant player as well.
Here's the satellite picture. You can see just how broad a storm that this is, encompassing much of the Chesapeake Bay area southward. You can see the clouds trailing from it. But again, it looks like it's going to be making landfall somewhere along the southeast coast of North Carolina.
And keep in mind, it's a large storm, so pinpointing the landfall location is not really critical. And notice the flow here is out of the southwest, so we expect that to turn more toward the
north. Take a left and then a right on that street. I don't remember the name of the street, but there's that shop on the corner. Okay. Then you take another left, and the road forks, but you go straight.
Straight? How can I go straight if there's a sugar shaker in front of me?
The road forks, but the main road is straight. Then you take a left and then a right, and he's on the left, but you got to go around because it's one way. You can't turn that way.
Get out of here.
ExperiencingTheGardenState.com now. Unexpected weather can really mess up your day, and preparing people for it is our business. Business is good.
Right now, it's your local forecast on the Weather Channel.
This edition of your Tropical Update brought to you by Home Depot, and just checking on the local advisories out of Wilmington, North Carolina, and just into us, a report of a wind gust to 100 miles an hour in the Pine Valley region of Wilmington, North Carolina. So strong winds now buffeting the extreme southern coast of North Carolina. Here's your 8 a.m. advisory from the Hurricane Center. Storm continues to be a powerful one, 150 miles an hour sustained right near the center, which is moving slowly north-northwest at 14 miles an hour. And that puts it, the center of circulation, about 110 miles south of Wilmington. But as mentioned, already hurricane force winds and gusts coming in into Brunswick and New Hanover counties here in extreme southern North Carolina. Hurricane warnings are in effect here from Edisto Beach, South Carolina, right up to Chincoteague, Virginia. Here's your greatest strike probabilities. Still looking like the center of circulation will get very close to the Wilmington area during the early afternoon hours. Then after that, a slow push to the northeast is expected. Here's a look at the tropical storm force winds. You're feeling them on the coast right now. Winds have been gusting 50, 60 miles an hour, especially here in southeast North Carolina. And as mentioned, hurricane force winds in gusts just getting into the coastal regions. And with the storm making landfall or very close to making landfall on the east side of it, quite a storm surge coming in along the coast here and right into the Sounds, Albemarle, Pamlico Sounds. A lot of low-lying areas here. You could be looking at a surge of 8 to 12 feet. Around New Bern, Washington, you probably will be affected with high waters coming in here as well. Quick peek at a Doppler radar for you. I'll take a look at that wind profile for you. And this is just checking on the winds towards the radar site in the darker blue and the winds away from the radar site in the red here. And here's your circulation right around the center of the storm. So here's your center of your storm. So see this darker blue area? See how it pokes right on into Brunswick and New Hanover counties? Right here, that's where we're getting those winds reported at 90 to 100 miles an hour in gusts. So it's coming in, and unfortunately, very heavy rains and damaging winds affecting southeast North Carolina. Looking at the big picture right now, we still have heavy surf advisories in effect here up and down the coast, well away from our large hurricane. Here you can see it on the infrared satellite picture moving slowly towards southeast North Carolina. Visible satellite picture this morning shows you south in North Carolina. Here's Cape Fear. Here's the center of your storm. Here come the bands with those high wind gusts coming into southeastern North Carolina. Again, as mentioned, a report of a wind gust of 100 miles an hour in the Pine Valley region around Wilmington. Tornado watches in effect in this area, as well as flash flood watches and high wind warnings too away from the coast. And of course, if you're in the hurricane warning area, you might want some extra water. So fill up your bathtub there. And if you do have a chance to still evacuate, have cash and a full tank of gas. Next up, Hurricane Danielle, 105 miles an hour. It's moving off towards the west-northwest here. This probably will pass north of Puerto Rico and the Virgin Islands. It'll be a close call. Could affect the Bahamas by the weekend.
Hi, this is meteorologist Jim Cantore in Morehead City, North Carolina. We are awaiting the bashing from Bonnie. We'll give you a live report. Stay tuned. That's on Weather Center next.
This program was sponsored by the Home Depot.
Guaranteed low prices at the Home Depot mean that you can be confident that you're going to walk into our store and find the best price in town. And if
we find a better price anywhere else, we'll beat that price with no questions asked.
We will match it and then beat it. That's our guarantee, day in and day out.
Everybody says they got the lowest price, but
not only do we have the guaranteed low price, we also...
Rainfall is underway at Wrightsville Beach, North Carolina, and the wind is picking up. It's one of the front lines of Hurricane Bonnie as the storm heads into a collision with the United States. Good morning, everyone. Thanks for joining us here at the Weather Channel, tracking Hurricane Bonnie. Report out of the Pine Valley area of Wilmington, North Carolina. Currently, a wind gust being reported at 100 miles per hour. Also, 91 mile per hour gusts also indicated in the county of Brunswick, I believe, and New Hanover County. So we have a formidable hurricane on its way. It's about 96 miles now from Wilmington. Hurricane warnings in effect southward to Edisto Beach this morning, and the strike probability carries it into the southeastern portions of North Carolina. Now, its center of circulation at 8 o'clock was 32.7 north and 77.8 west, 110 miles south of Wilmington, North Carolina. Winds 115 miles per hour, moving north-northwest at 14 miles per hour. Barometric pressure on the latest reconnaissance aircraft fix was 966 millibars, up 1. Hurricane force winds have been extended even further out. They're affecting 115 miles on a radius to the north and northeast, and tropical storm force winds extend out some 230 miles. This is a very large hurricane. Wind gusts in the last hour outside of the ones I just mentioned to you, 48 at Wilmington. That was before the latest gust, 38 as far south as Myrtle Beach, and even further than that in Charleston, they were 32. Now, how are the winds going to affect you over the next several hours? Well, the impact shows the hurricane force winds just beginning to be felt along the extreme southeastern portion of North Carolina. And that hurricane will be taking a forecast track a little more northward and will begin to affect folks in Morehead City and Nags Head and the interior sections of North Carolina and South Carolina. Now, we have Weather Channel people stationed along the coast from the north at Nags Head Beach with Jeff Morrow, at Morehead City, Jim Cantori, and at Wrightsfield Beach, where the latest wind gust in the area has been reported at 100 miles per hour, Bill Keneally. So we'll start with Bill Keneally first. Bill, what's going on there?
Well, Marshall, I think everybody's pretty much resigned to the fact of the inevitability of some sort of a landfall here, be it the eye wall or be it the eye itself. You mentioned Pine Valley. Pine Valley would be about 3 or 4 miles back to my south, and that is where you reportedly said there was a 100-mile-per-hour wind gust in the last hour. We have not had anything that high here. I'd say it's on the order of 50 or 60 miles per hour. But as you look behind me, you can see it's not constant. It's not an incessant northeast wind. We are catching a bit of a break right now. I'd put the winds probably in the neighborhood of 35 or maybe 40 miles per hour. Momentarily ago, we took a little ride down to the beach. What did we see? We saw a lot of rocking of the boats. The boats are all intact, however, and incidentally, the marina's about a half a mile to my right, down there in the Intracoastal Waterway. But so far, so good. Even on the waterfront, we are a little more protected. We have a big stand of trees, and we have the building to my northeast, so we're looking pretty good right here. Let's see what's going on up the beach. We'll go to Jim Cantori now in Morehead City. Jim?
Thanks a lot, Jeff. We haven't had anything what you've had down there. We've had a third of the wind. Winds possibly over 20 miles an hour at times as we've gotten some of the readings off our anemometer on the mast cam. And I want to take that shot right now. This is looking south across the inlet or the bay here, back toward the barrier island, which is where we were last night. So you're looking south, and you can see how gray it is down there. And I'm sure with the tide coming in now, you're getting a tremendous amount of sea spray and salt and whatnot in the air. So that's, of course, adding to the reduced visibilities. But we have not gotten anything near tropical storm force yet in the sustained category or even the gusts. So, so far, so good here. But no doubt this thing is steadily moving northward, and looks like the best surge will actually be from Wrightsville Beach all the way up to Cape Lookout. And those are the areas that could experience 9 to 12-foot surge as we work our way on in time. And, of course, with high tide coming up in the next hour and a half to 2 hours, this could be a big problem now that this eye wall is starting to approach the coast. So batten down the hatches, folks. If you're on the coast, inland, we're ready to go here. Shelters are open, schools are closed, and people are just waiting on the inevitable. Upstate in the northern part of the Outer Banks, we've got Jeff Morrow in Nags Head. Let's go to him for a live report. Jeff?
All right, Jim. Well, up here on the Outer Banks, the northern Outer Banks, at least here at Nags Head and not too far away from Whalebone Junction and just across the causeway from Manteo, things are fairly quiet here. It's been quiet actually ever since yesterday afternoon, with most of the folks had already evacuated. Last night, not a bad night, a pretty high tide at about 10:30 last evening. We're coming up on another high tide here. Pretty gray looking sky now. It dawned very sunny this morning, but the low gray clouds have come marching in, even though the hurricane, of course, is well to the south, well down even south of Wilmington still. So we have a little bit more of a wait here for some of that action to start coming up this way, but we do expect it. Surf is still running about 8 to 10, maybe even as high as 12 feet offshore, and it is not an ocean that I think anybody would want to go swimming in. Definitely no surfers out this morning, just a little bit too rough. We'll keep you updated here from the Outer Banks, here at Nags Head, North Carolina. Let's go back to Marshall.
Jeff Morrow, thanks for that report. I think as we speak with you later this afternoon, it'll look much different behind you, much like it does behind Bill Keneally this morning. I'm in the studio with Dr. Steve Lyons, the hurricane expert and tropical coordinator here at the Weather Channel. And Dr. Lyons, on this radar picture, can you make out the eye and what direction of movement? People very interested in both its track and the timing.
Yes, you can see the center of the circulation is about right in there. And it's trying to make a little bit of a turn more toward the north. but it's not moving. Of course, this loop is not very long, so it doesn't look like it's moving very fast, but it is moving continuously. And of course, you can see these strong rain bands here, and in those bands are some very strong winds. Now, of course, in Wilmington is way up here. That's nowhere near the center yet, so it's not the eye wall that affected them there. That's a rather surprising 100-mile-per-hour wind gust there. Those are gusts, keep in mind, and those are associated probably with the severe weather associated with this first band that came on shore, which is sort of the onset of the sustained tropical storm force winds.
Now, on the latest reconnaissance fix, it had the eye some 96 miles, I think, from the coast. What's the timing, do you think, of particular landfall of this hurricane?
Well, if it continues to move at the same speed from where it is, we're talking about a 7 to 8 hour trek to the coast for the eye itself. But it depends on whether or not it goes straight to the coast or heads up this way, because this distance is much longer. So it could be much later in the afternoon if it goes this way as compared to here. And right now, the Hurricane Center's official track is this way. But keep in mind, the exact center of the location of the landfall is not as important. You can see well away from the center you had a 100-mile-per-hour wind gust. That's nothing to fool around with at all. So you should all be ready for the worst.
And again, a very, very large hurricane.
That's right. You're seeing the whole envelope here on the larger picture, some big thunderstorms up in here as well. Of course, Jeff was up at Nag's Head, and you saw some very strong longshore currents there, basically